I grew up in musical theater and loved to perform on stage. I did commercials and voiceovers as a kid, and it just led to musical theater opportunities. Who would have thought that a story about a professor of phonetics would result in it being probably one of the great shows ever for musical theater? It's a seemingly odd subject. Musical theater is something that I always wanted to be a part of, and my first ever role on the West End as Joseph in Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat gave me a taste for it. I can never say that I will never return to musical theater. There may be a part in the future that I really want to do. I love plays as well. I am very open to ideas. I hope to do many things in the future. I love musical theater because I love doing a live performance 8 times a week. I did musical theater for about 4 years. One time, I did 6 shows in 1 year whilst juggling school. I have fallen deeply in love with songs, musical theater songs included, over the years, and this experience has taught me to hear and honor the writer's voice in my soul. I have ambitions to do a Broadway record one of these days and get in the studio with a real orchestra. I'm a big musical theater geek. I love the intimacy of making movies. The focus is deeper and much more intense than musical theater. Great architects like Todt, Mendelssohn, and Gropius built some astonishing buildings which were to change the way architects around the world thought. Brecht and Weill forever changed musical theater. Keith Kollwitz and others changed German perceptions of the purposes of art. With musical theater, although there are rules, they're so different to the ones I feel like I have accidentally been ingrained with writing pop music. The main point is to tell the story. You just have to make sure the character's voice is strong and the storytelling is strong. It seems like pop singing has sort of influenced musical theater in so many ways. You could argue good or bad, really, and musical theater is written for that style so often, which is a completely different style. I think the genre of musical theater, when it started, the pop songwriters of the time were writing the music. I think sometimes when we write musicals now, we keep writing in that same style, as though that's the musical theater genre. We have to figure out how to tell stories with the music that we listen to now, or we'll lose our audience. I have a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in musical theater. I am in musical theater, but it isn't necessarily what I listen to in my leisure time. Do you know what I mean? There is genuine healing in a beautifully crafted musical theater song, like Stephen Sondheim's Losing My Mind, or a pop music gem like Joni Mitchell's Help Me. I had originally planned to do musical theater and be on Broadway, but then my love for poetry also set in. Once that happened, I became torn between a career as an English teacher or a music teacher. I'm grateful to be working. The most exciting thing for me is that I never get bored. I've done comedy, drama, musical theater, and now Shakespeare. I started singing in my church choir, and then when I got to middle school, I had the coolest musical theater director, and we actually did The Wiz in 7th grade, and I was Adderpearl, and my grandma was like, "Why didn't you audition for Dorothy?" But I was too nervous for that. It must have been an extraordinary time. I guess the worrying thing about musical theater to me, is if you look at the London season this year, mine is actually the only one to have come in. I used to do puppet theater and also mime and musical theater in Florida for competitions and festivals, which was great. I was very much involved in theater when I was in college. In the world of musical theater, if everyone says it's a good idea, you wonder why nobody has done it before. I grew up doing musical theater in Orlando, Florida. When I was 14, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. A deliveryman heard me singing and offered to deliver my demo tape to Sony Music. I was just really lucky. I grew up dancing, and for a while in college, I was a gym rat. I finally realized, I'm going to create a little more balance in my life and make exercise something that I enjoy doing. So I went back to dance when I started doing more musical theater, and I've just found that it's the best thing that works for my body. I grew up doing certain little things in the musical theater realm, but I didn't really understand that you could make a career out of it. I'm very driven, and I always have been. So I'd like to release a successful album, continue in musical theater, and be more involved in business. Musical theater is my first love. I began with dance, doing ballet at 3, then tap, jazz, modern. Then I sang in church choirs, learned how to play clarinet and drums, sang with rock bands, and only then did I get into musical theater. Musical theater is something I'm familiar with. I've been doing that. I was really enthusiastic as a kid. I was up for anything. I was hugely into music and theater. I was a big musical theater kid. I loved reading. After high school, I went to the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point for a year, and I studied musical theater. By that point, I was like, this is what I want to do. I started dancing at age 3 and then got involved in musical theater and acting around age 7. I think I've probably known since then that I want to be a professional actor. I was a musical theater geek in high school and college. Honestly, I actually would really love to see more musical theater actors do the movie adaptations of shows. I think that would be really great to see. I majored in musical theater performance at college, then went through years of waiting tables and temping while looking for acting work. Musical theater history is littered with bad reviews for now classic pieces. I was a musical theater kid, which meant you could always find me singing or dancing in the halls with at least 4 other people. Got a degree in acting and actually double majored in musical theater. And then I came straight to New York and started working. Musical theater is now a worldwide conversation. My mom raised us on classic movies and a lot of musical theater. I came to musical theater from straight acting, and a lot of my friends have a real prejudice about musical theater, one I probably shared. As we get older, I don't know a single person who has devoted their life to musical theater who hasn't had a couple of misses as well as a bunch of hits. The misses, we learn a great deal from them. The whole college process for musical theater majors is much different than others. The school sort of chooses you. Everyone knows which schools are the top schools and what tier each one is in. So if you get into a good school, you put it on your resume, and you already have a great reputation when you get to New York. My desire was never to put out albums, it was to do musical theater. I collect musical theater anthologies. I have a whole library of them. I went into musical theater, which I'm not really cut out for. I'm not as skilled at it as other people. When I started out, I wanted to be Billy Joel. The plan was to be a singer-songwriter of that ilk, and, then, I got waylaid. That's probably an unfair way to say it, from being a rock star by the musical theater stuff, which I love doing. I didn't go to drama school to be a musical theater performer. I enjoyed it, but I didn't go to do that. I went to be an actor. I was lucky enough to see the original cast of In the Heights. This one blew my mind. The infusion of Latin, hip-hop and rap with musical theater, great storytelling and talent was a powerful combination to me during a time when I'd not been moved by much. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.